Nikki Cheng McCain has been missing since May of last year, and tonight detectives now believe she's a victim of homicide. Detectives say they have been working tirelessly to locate Nikki, serving numerous search warrants, including a prior search warrant at Nikki's home.
It's a lot of emotions. We're just trying to hang in there. We want to stay strong for the kids and, of course, for the community, but it's tough.
Tyler, where's Nikki? Where's Nikki, Tyler?
Chloe Saley and Kay Ford are sisters to Nikki and have been at the forefront of the search efforts since she disappeared on May 18th of this year.
Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it?
Now! Detectives say they've identified persons of interest in the case but are withholding their identities right now due to the ongoing investigation. Authorities are now asking for the public's help.
Where's Nikki, Tyler? Where's my sister? Where's my sister?
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of 10 to Life with me, Annie Elise. Now the case we're talking about today, it's one that we talked about 8 months ago, and it was super shady, super suspicious, lots of red flags, and then there haven't really been a ton of updates. However, now this is a case about a missing woman, and I'm going to get into all of it. Now her husband at the time, who there were DV reports against, and the whole thing is shady. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but now he's speaking out in a new interview, in his first interview since she disappeared, like his first public-facing one. And a lot of people are saying that he is given like Chris Watts vibes, psychotic, that he's the one responsible because he does have motive, which I will talk about, and it feeling almost like Watts in this interview with a splash of Barry Morphew, who has not been convicted, let me just be clear. And I wanted to jump back on here. I wanted to give an update because now there's allegations that maybe the body has been moved, that he's the one responsible, and just kind of give you a full overview. And if you don't know by now, we are talking about Nikki McCain. She first went missing back in May of 2024. And there were some weird details about her disappearance and more so the timing of her disappearance that I want to explain to you. And then we're going to go into some of these new updates, the interview with the husband, what both of Nikki's sisters are saying now, and we're going to just talk about everything. There's a lot to go over though, so I'm going to give you a full recap of the case, give you all of the new updates so it's all in one place, and we can try to figure out what the heck is going on here. All right, guys, let's jump right in.
This is 10 to Life with Annie Elise.
Nikki McCain is a 39-year-old woman that has been missing since May 17th. The case was initially investigated by the Redding Police Department after family members had lost contact with her. But now the Shasta County's Sheriff's Office has taken over the investigation. And if Redding PD and Shasta County sound familiar to you, it's because this is the same place where Sherry Papini was living when she faked her kidnapping, when that whole hoax went down. However, this story is nothing like that at all. Just 8 days after she was last seen, her truck was found in Tehama County, but law enforcement didn't say exactly where the truck was found exactly. Now, Nikki, coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, as many people suspect, disappeared right before her husband, Tyler, was set to go to trial in July for domestic charges that caused injuries, false imprisonment, and terroristic threats. The charges are from an incident that stemmed back in December of 2023. According to court records, going back to the incident a little bit, on December 1st in 2023, the Shasta County Sheriff's deputy responded to Mercy Hospital to speak with a woman who was referred to as a confidential victim. In the report, this deputy said that he immediately noticed facial trauma to both of the victim's eyes. He also noticed some trauma to her forehead and her other facial areas. Specifically, the report says, both of her eyes were blackened severely. Both were swollen in what appeared to be a physical. Now, when the deputy asked this victim who assaulted her, she told him that it was her husband of 13 years, Tyler McCain. The woman told him that Tyler hit her with an open hand 10 to 15 times. hit her in the face with this open hand in this single incident. She also said that the assault took place inside their home. The report goes on to say that the victim told the deputy that she was combing her hair in her bedroom before Tyler returned to their home in this, what she's calling a strange mood, and then locked the back door. Tyler then became extremely agitated and was not making any sense. Then it says, Tyler came to her in the bedroom and immediately jumped on her and held her down on the ground before hitting her in the face in a harsh, forceful manner, pulling her hair and even pouring water on her. This behavior continued for 3 hours. This all according to the report, which during this time, apparently he allegedly bound her ankles and her wrists together and placed tape over her mouth. The victim said that she believed she was going to die. Tyler then turned her over, straddled her, pulled her head back, and told her that he was going to kill her. Tyler allegedly kept hitting her while she was on the ground and even attempted to wrap something around her neck, but thankfully was unsuccessful. The report goes on to say that eventually the victim tried to leave the room, and this is when Tyler jumped on the front of her car and told her not to leave. The report continues saying, the deputy later spoke with Tyler, who confirmed the victim was his wife, Nikki McCain. He said that he was aware of her injuries but did not actually see them. Tyler reportedly told officials that he believed this fight was between his wife and another woman. Tyler's statement sounded inconsistent, and based on the totality of the circumstances and based on the fact that the injuries upon the confidential victim were consistent with that of domestic, nothing was really adding up. So this case started ramping up on social media when the county district attorney's office in court announced that it filed a motion to dismiss the case against Tyler McCain. In a statement, the DA's office said that it made the move due to insufficient evidence because the victim, Nikki McCain, is currently a missing person, and there's also an ongoing investigation into her disappearance, which is just incredibly frustrating. Like, how are you going to drop a case due to insufficient evidence because the victim is missing? Obviously, wouldn't that kind of raise a red flag like, oh, the victim in this case is missing, right? When he's set to go to trial, something clearly is shady and doesn't add up, right? Now remember on May 25th, a week after she went missing, Nikki's 2002 Chevy Avalanche truck was found in Tehama County, which is about an hour and a half south of Shasta County. Now there are some reports that it was found under a bridge in a mountain pass, but authorities still haven't said exactly where it was found, or if anything significant was found inside the truck. Because on July 5th, 2024, the Shasta County Superior Court agreed to dismiss the case against Tyler, and he got to walk out of the courthouse happy, free, not given a damn at all about his missing wife. And we kind of suspected that this was the whole reason Nikki disappeared, right? And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But because he had this looming court case, she could have testified against him. So she mysteriously just vanishes right before the hearing. And then, look, it looks like if that was the motive, it worked because happy, dismissed, he gets to walk out a free man.
Do you guys happen to know where Nikki might be?
Now, this news was not only incredibly heartbreaking, but it had social media going absolutely nuts. Because like I said, I think we can all agree that Nikki's disappearance so close to Tyler's trial is just insanely coincidental and beyond shady. And to me, it's pretty much like Tyler knew that if he could get rid of Nikki and do a good enough job where she would never be found, then his case would be dismissed and he could just go about his life as if none of this ever happened. That's just my opinion. It's all alleged, of course, but that's what I'm thinking, and tell me if you agree or disagree. Now, of course, with the justice system in America, everybody is, yes, innocent until proven guilty. So just because we all agree that the chances of Tyler having something to do with Nikki's disappearance are pretty high, justice can't really be served unless there's actual damning evidence against him, whether that be a body, a murder weapon, anything more than what the investigators apparently have now, which seems pretty much like little to nothing. Now, after this decision was made, there wasn't an immediate press conference or statement released to explain the reasoning, which did not work out in Shasta County's favor because, like I said, the internet was pissed, to say the least. And they weren't the only ones. Tons of protesters gathered to rally against the dismissal.
Justice, no peace. It's Tyler's on the street. No justice, no peace. It's Tyler's on the street. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace, and Tyler's on the street. No justice, no peace, and Tyler's on the street. Justice, no peace, and Tyler's on the streets. Justice, no peace, and Tyler's on the streets.
People were flooding the courthouse as well as social media with claims about how the DA was just as guilty as Tyler, and saying that the courts just aren't taking domestic dispute cases seriously, and everyone pretty much saw them as blowing this entire thing off. It also doesn't help that Shasta County is the same place, remember, where Sherry Papini lived during her whole kidnapping hoax, and everyone can't help but look and wonder why the two cases seem to be handled just incredibly differently. Sherry's case took the media by storm. Nikki's case, on the other hand, it isn't exactly going as viral as Sherry's. I mean, just from looking the case up, there is hardly any updates or talks about what is being done to find her. Sherry's case racked up about, $150,000 in local resources that were used to search for her, which was obviously a total complete waste since she faked the entire thing. And Nikki's first official search didn't even happen until 2 weeks after she was missing. And the whole thing was planned by her family and friends, not even the local authorities. Is it pure negligence or lack of care? I mean, there's definitely a lot of cleaning up for Shasta County to do in more ways than one. Now, a few days after this dismissal, an official statement was released by the Shasta County DA, Stephanie Bridget, and this statement read, "I hear the community's pleas for answers and justice for Nikki McCain. I share in those sentiments and frustrations. It's incredible how much our community has rallied together, and we fully support your efforts. Unfortunately, some individuals have been commenting, posting, and sharing information online and to news stations that is inaccurate. Misinformation fuels distrust and disappointment. I assure you that dismissing the domestic case is the best path forward at this time, as it preserves our ability to refile the case once Nikki is located or sufficient evidence is obtained to utilize her statements in her absence. Both the domestic case and missing persons case are being actively worked on by my office as well as the Shasta County Sheriff's Office. The Shasta County Sheriff's Office Major Crime Units is the lead agency on the missing persons investigation. Significant resources are dedicated to both the missing person investigation and the domestic case. My office has one deputy DA assigned to the domestic case, a senior deputy DA to the missing persons case, and a chief deputy DA is overseeing all of the work being done by both. The District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation has been involved in multiple operations to locate Nikki, and we are working closely with the Shasta County Sheriff's Office. We also have an advocate who has been assigned to the domestic case and was working with Nikki up until her disappearance and continues to work with Nikki's immediate family on both the domestic case and the missing person investigation. We know Nikki's disappearance and our decision on the domestic case is upsetting to many of you. I hear your frustrations and your desire for justice. I assure you that I and everyone in my office share your frustrations and your desire for justice, not only in the domestic case, but also in her safe return." Now, I know that that was a lot, guys, and as you can tell by that statement, they knew that they were absolutely getting ripped to shreds online. A lot of people, though, still weren't happy with that statement because, let's be honest, it doesn't really answer very many questions as to why this case was dismissed, only that they had no malicious intent in doing it. And if you do dig into the legal aspects of things, as much as it really sucks to say it, there are arguments for why they did dismiss it. To put it simply, the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, because it states that citizens have a series of rights in criminal trials. One of those rights is the right to confront the witness during a trial. In other words, Tyler has the right to confront his accuser, who would be Nikki. Since Nikki is missing and ultimately wouldn't just be popping up at his trial, he no longer has that right. DA Stephanie Bridget has said that apparently there are some very narrow exceptions, but that those exceptions have been looked into, and they unfortunately just don't fit in this case. She also claimed that in dismissing the case and not moving forward without the key witness in her testimony, they're avoiding a possible double jeopardy issue. Which, if you're unfamiliar with the double jeopardy, that means that essentially somebody can't be tried twice for the same crime. So let's just say they moved forward with this domestic case, and Tyler was ultimately found not guilty because they didn't have Nikki's witness testimony. Even if Nikki was found alive or significant evidence was found against Tyler, they wouldn't be able to try him again. Tyler could literally go on the local news and say, "Yep, I did it. Everything that I was accused of, I did it, plus a little bit more." But there would be absolutely nothing that they could do. because he was already tried once and he was found not guilty. So as much as it physically pains me to say this, you can see how the legal aspect of it kind of makes sense. Not to mention the whole other element of them wanting to gather more evidence. We saw something similar, kind of same but different with the Suzanne Morphew case and Barry Morphew. They had dismissed things so that in the hopes that they would be able to refile in the future once they had more sufficient evidence and things like that. Now, it's just one of the legal things, unfortunately. We don't like to see it, and it is enraging, but hopefully a move that is done for the greater good. I don't know. And to hopefully get a conviction later on, assuming he is in fact guilty. Now, of course, I want this piece of garbage to face justice for what he has done. No doubt, in my mind, what he has done. But it does seem like the decision was made with the idea of getting as much justice as possible for Nikki, given the really crappy options that are out there right now. And I want to make it extremely clear that I am in no way trying to negate the feelings of Nikki's family and friends who feel like the system has failed her, because I cannot even imagine if I was in their shoes. And at the end of the day, I want nothing more than justice for Nikki. I wish I had the perfect answers for how to move forward. I really do, but this is kind of where we are. Now, my biggest question, I guess, is where do they go from here? If, God forbid, Nikki is never found alive to testify and there's no solid evidence proving Tyler's involvement in her disappearance, where do we go? If there's no evidence against Tyler to prove that he either abducted her or maybe even murdered her, then do they just move forward with the domestic case, even if it probably won't have a solid outcome? I mean, just so that they could try anything? Or does this guy literally get the definition of a get out of jail free card? I don't know. Now, since we're basically already talking about Tyler getting away with things, let's get into the other reason why his name was in the news, and for reasons completely unrelated, maybe, to Nikki. Apparently on July 3rd, which was just prior to Tyler's case getting dismissed, a fire started at the 1700 block of Olinda Road in Anderson, California. Nobody was arrested. However, there was one person who was cited in this incident. Cal Fire claimed that they can share arrests, but not citations. So the whole thing was this momentary mystery until reporters, who I guess had some sort of secret knowledge, asked Tyler if he was the one who was cited. And guess what? He admitted that he was. Now, I know people who are way too into true crime like me will probably all jump into the same conclusion, right? Tyler started this fire to get rid of evidence. He told the reporters that the fire was started because he had parked his car on dry grass, and Cal Fire actually confirmed his story by posting, quote, "The fire was sparked by a failed converter that expelled hot fragments into dry vegetation." So I guess he was telling the truth.
Well, Glenn, we now know that the fire was started here by a car left running at this property on Olinda Road. And we now have confirmed that both the car that caused the fire and this property are owned by Tyler McCain, husband of the missing Nikki McCain. McCain approached me today while I was filming the damage left behind by the fire, sharing he was cited for it. He told me he just bought a car to fix up and had left it running for a few minutes while he went to get something inside. When he returned, he says the fire was ignited.
Did he park on the dry grass on purpose, knowing that it would spark a fire to get rid of evidence? You could call it conspiracy. You could also call it strategic. I would say that my personal opinion is he is strategic, especially given the fact that Nikki disappeared before the trial was set to begin, conveniently, coincidentally, and now when your trial is set to begin and there might or might not be possible evidence, your car conveniently starts a fire. Okay. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Conspiracy? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's strategic or just a big coincidence? I don't want to go too crazy on the conspiracy train, but guys, I mean, how many coincidences until you explain it away as no, somebody intervened in this. Now, those were just all of the things going on in the immediate aftermath of Nikki's disappearance last summer. But now we are very quickly coming up on a full year since Nikki was last heard from on May 17th, 2024. That's when she had reached out to her sisters, Chloe and Kay. And guys, I truly wish that I could give a different kind of update, but unfortunately, Nikki has not been found yet, still. However, since last summer, there have been some pretty significant updates and things that I believe are worth mentioning. Now, through everything, her sisters have really continued just working tirelessly to make sure that Nikki's name and her face never leaves the media.
It's a lot. It's a lot of emotions. We're just trying to hang in there. We want to stay strong for the kids and, a force for the community, but it's tough. We've been trying to keep it as consistent as possible, and we've been trying to just kind of shield them from what's being said online, but also having them be aware that they do know that their mom is missing, but also just making sure that they're okay.
Last fall, Nikki's family celebrated her 40th birthday. However, obviously, as you understand, this birthday celebration was much different than all of the other ones because Nikki herself wasn't there to celebrate with them.
If she was here, we'd probably be celebrating with lots of food and all her favorite things that she likes to eat, but she's not here. We can't find her.
Now, despite the media presence in Nikki's case being not as widespread or heavily covered as others, the community, her friends, her family, everybody who has grown to know this case, even strangers, they've continued holding protests, rallies, like all these things, just doing everything they can so that they can spread awareness about her case. Take a look at this.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Now, I know that I've been more than vocal about my thoughts on this case, okay? So if I tried to backtrack and say that I didn't think that Tyler was at all suspicious, I wouldn't be telling my truth because that's not how I actually feel. I think that he is very, very suspicious. And it's hard to know exactly how Nikki's sisters, who have been at the forefront of this investigation, truly feel about Tyler, especially after some of the more recent things that have been happening recently. There have been times during this case where it seemed that they were very far from being on the same team. It was almost like it was Tyler versus Nikki's sisters. And last June, when Tyler was walking into the Shasta County Courthouse for unrelated driving charges against him, he flipped off not only several protesters who were gathered outside who were asking him where his wife was, but he also flipped off Nikki's sisters. Not really a great look for Tyler, right?
Tyler's on the streets! No justice! Tyler, where's Nikki? Where's Nikki? Tyler, where's my sister? Where's my sister? Where's my sister? Where's my sister? If Tyler's on the streets, no justice, no peace. If Tyler's on the streets, no justice, no peace. If Tyler's on the streets, no justice, no peace. If Tyler's on the streets, where's my sister, Tyler?
So this obviously rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Then there's the fact, too, that her sisters have been more than open about the very abusive relationship that Nikki and Tyler allegedly had for years. But then, as I mentioned at the top of this video, recently, on March 10th, 2025, Tyler spoke at a press conference, side by side with Nikki's sisters. Now, this was the first time that he has spoken publicly since she disappeared. And before I play the clip, I want to make it very, very crystal clear that I am not insinuating that Nikki's sisters and the rest of her family actually believe that Tyler had anything to do with it, nothing to do with it. I'm not trying to insinuate anything here. I just wanted to point out how big of a contrast this was, more so in Tyler's behavior than anybody else's. Because even if they think he is guilty of sin, they obviously can't not make him speak, unfortunately, so here's what he had to say.
Hello, I'm Cheng McCain. I'm the husband of Nikki McCain. First of all, I would like to thank the Sheriff's Office, FBI, for getting involved. Any efforts that that might help bring my wife home, safely. We miss you. I don't really know what to say. I haven't been in the public eyes, and I haven't done very well with it. I apologize to everyone, especially my children, my wife's family, mine as well. I'm just here in support, so anything that I can do, I want to do that. Okay, I'll take over.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, make of that what you want, but like I said, a lot of people are saying that he feels very kind of like dead in the eyes, that there doesn't seem to be true emotion there, that it felt kind of Chris Wattsy. I know a lot of people kind of jump to that whenever a spouse gives an interview. And I, of course, have my own thoughts, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, Do you feel like this is a pretty half-assed apology? Or do you truly feel as though he's being sincere and maybe is just, I don't know, a little awkward? Now, her sisters, Chloe and Kay, also spoke at the recent press conference after Tyler's short, not all that sweet kind of things, and more of his, to the point comments. But take a listen to what they had to say.
Hello, my name is Kay Ford.
And I'm Chloe Lee. We just want to start off by saying thank you for being here today to hear about our missing sister, Nikki Cheng McCain, who has been missing for 296 days.
We have spent each of those days in agony, longing for her safe return to her family and her children. She vanished on May 18th, 2024, and we urgently need your help to find her. We are pleading with anyone with information to come forward. This is a call to action to bring our sister home.
Nikki is approximately 5 feet tall and she weighs about 90 to 95 pounds. She has dark brown, reddish colored hair, and at the time of her disappearance, she was 39 years old. She was allegedly last seen May 18th, 2024.
She was reportedly picked up at her mother-in-law, Jeanette Hayward McCain's house at the Redding Rancheria in Redding, California. She may have been dropped off at her home on Olinda Road in Happy Valley. Her truck that Tyler recently purchased for her was found abandoned on Highway 36 near Begum Road. She hasn't been seen or heard from since.
We want to express our deepest gratitude to everyone who has helped in the search for my sister. To the volunteers, law enforcement, the media, private investigators, and the individuals who have dedicated their time and resources to searching for her, and to every single person who has shared her story, kept an eye out, and offered support, thank you. Your kindness and determination mean the world to our family during this incredibly difficult time.
We also want to sincerely thank the Shasta County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit for their continued efforts and for giving us this platform to keep our sister's story alive. Their support in this search has been invaluable, and we are grateful for their dedication to helping us find her.
Nikki, you are missed every single day. We wonder if you're at peace. Your absence leaves a void that can't be filled, and we want to bring you home. You are loved beyond measure, and we will keep searching for you until you're back in our arms. No matter how tired we are, we will keep fighting. Your kids need you, and we need you. And we just want you to know this is not your fault. For almost a year, we've been searching for our sister and for a major break in the case that will help us find her. We miss her desperately, and we will never give up. But we need your help. If you have seen anything, heard anything, or know anything, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, please come forward. Any piece of information could be the key to bringing our sister home.
Our mission is clear. We must bring Nikki home. Your help is critical, and we welcome any support from those who know and love her. We have connected with the missing persons community, including Gabby Petito's mother. Gabby Petito was found after a tip from social media, and we haven't lost hope.
We just ask that you continue to please keep Nikki in your thoughts, but more importantly, don't forget about her. Get the word out on social media. We're using hashtag Where's Nikki. Please keep her name out there. And again, please do not forget, and we can't state this enough, please, someone has to know something, and we need that person or those people to speak up. We will not rest until she is found.
If you have any information, please contact the Shasta County Major Crimes. And to find out more about her case, we did create a website. It's www.where-is-nikki.com. Our family is holding on to hope, and we won't stop until we find her. Thank you.
Now, look, I know that sometimes I can lean one way in this, but stepping back, playing devil's advocate here, do I really need to point out just how different these two speeches were? I mean, hello? I just think it's so obvious. Now, allegedly 2 weeks before this press conference, Chloe and Kay were told behind the scenes that the FBI was now getting involved in Nikki's case. Now, even though that's a really positive thing, I would imagine that they would have had a lot of questions following that up, kind of like, well, why now? But apparently they weren't told any other information as to why the FBI was getting involved or what specifically even led to this. just the fact that they were in fact getting involved. Now keep in mind that news conference was on March 10th, which then leads us into probably the biggest thing that has happened in this entire case so far, because just days later on March 14th, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office dropped a major bombshell. The media release read, "On Friday, March 14th, 2025, detectives with the Shasta County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit, along with agents of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, served a search warrant at 17277 Olinda Road, Anderson. This address is where Nikki resided when she was initially reported missing by the family members on May 22nd, 2024. Since the initial investigation, detectives have worked tirelessly to locate Nikki and to determine the events leading to her disappearance. Detectives have served numerous search warrants, including a prior search warrant at Nikki's residence. Furthermore, detectives have interviewed family members, friends and acquaintances of Nikki, and even citizens who have reported information about her disappearance. And based on evidence gathered, information learned from those interviews, and the fact that none of Nikki's family members have heard from Nikki since May 18th, 2024, detectives have determined that Nikki is a victim of a homicide. Detectives have identified persons of interest in her homicide. However, their identities are being withheld due to the ongoing nature of this investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has been assisting with this investigation along with other local allied agencies. Detectives are asking for the public's help with identifying a driver of a red-in-color truck who may have picked up a male adult in the area of Highway 36 in the western portion of the county, right near the Wild Horse Ranch or the Gorge Bridge, and the time they are citing there is May 18th and May 25th, somewhere in that range. So they're looking for somebody who may have picked up a man who was either leaving the scene of something or needed a ride somewhere else. And immediately, there are so many different things about this release that caught my attention, because the first really big piece of information is that Nikki's case is now being treated as a homicide case, which is huge. More resources, more attention, more of a closer look. And as much as we all don't want it to be true, I do think that this is where a lot of our minds have been pretty much the entire time. Now, the second piece that I think is interesting is the fact that this came after a search of Nikki and Tyler's home. Of course, there are other contributing factors, yes, but when I read, quote, based on evidence gathered, I'm going to guess that that means from the searches at the house. And I've said it once, I'll say it again, I am no lawyer or legal expert, but that is what I think. I could be completely off the mark, but there is just no other scenario that makes sense to me personally. Now, according to multiple eyewitnesses who saw the raid of this home, they claimed to have seen Tyler, who arrived as a passenger in a vehicle of some sort, arrive during this raid. Now, we don't know if this was his own vehicle or if this was an authorized law enforcement vehicle, but either way, he was allegedly there when the raid began. And again, based on those eyewitnesses, he was not allowed to ever go inside of the home. They also claimed that Tyler was never questioned by authorities or taken into custody. Now, take all of that with a grain of salt, though, because none of that has been confirmed or denied by law enforcement whatsoever. This is all just alleged. However, the same website that included the eyewitness reports also indicated that even though Tyler wasn't arrested following the search, that doesn't mean that no arrest was made whatsoever. Because get this, a 32-year-old woman by the name of Christina Adams was allegedly arrested after the raid, and her charges were listed as violation code 1203.2A 50126 PC. which if you're like me and all of that sounded like a foreign language and you're like, great, Annie, that's a lot of numbers. What does it all mean? What does it all mean, Basil? What's that from? Oh, Austin Powers. What it means is she either violated her probation or she was involved with a new crime. And I know you're probably also thinking, okay, well, why does any of this honestly even matter? Who is this woman? But that's the thing. I don't really have an answer for you. Apparently, sometime after Nikki went missing, this woman moved into Tyler and Nikki's home. There aren't any reports that specifically state that Christina and Tyler were in a relationship, though that would be my best assumption based on what little information we have. But I don't know. Maybe she's a distant cousin and she just needed a place to crash. Who knows? We really don't know anything. But apparently this woman has a pretty lengthy criminal history with some felony charges, probations, jail time mixed in, all of that. Now, on the off chance that this was someone that Tyler got into a relationship with after Nikki's disappearance, kind of feels pretty important to add in all that information, right? And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a Chris Watts, Nicole Kessinger kind of thing, or that she had anything to do with Nikki's disappearance. But again, it does feel like an important thing to add, because you can never really be too sure when it comes to the true crime world and what people's motives or involvement may be. I also, just kind of going back to that media statement really quickly, another thing that stood out was the mention of anybody who was in a red car who picked somebody up between these dates. My mind, when reading that, immediately went to Brian Laundrie. Because if you remember, after he killed and disposed of Gabby, allegedly killed, he's never been charged, but come on. Even though, and he admitted to it as a mercy kill, but whatever, you know what I mean? So after all of that, he was trying to get from point A to point B, and he was going all these ways. And so a lot of the information ended up coming out that he was hitchhiking and that people were the ones driving him because he, of course, didn't want to be tracked. He didn't want that trace. He didn't want, he left a cell phone, all of those things. So could somebody have picked up Tyler, perhaps, and that's who they're looking for out there, and driven him or picked him up from somewhere because he was hitchhiking trying to get from point A to point B? I don't know. I think that the reason they're looking, like if they're looking for somebody and looking for information, I think that's really important. Let's read below the line. Why? Or between the lines. Now, another thing I found interesting about that media release too was that there is now officially a person or persons of interest in the case. Now, granted, the names of these persons of interest weren't announced, but if I was a gambler, if I was a gambling woman, I'd bet my money on Tyler being one of them. I mean, at the very least. Maybe even the other chick. Maybe Christina too. I don't really know. Again, there's just no other scenario in my mind that would make sense unless there are some serious things that are just unknown to the public at this point. Like something going on behind the scenes, someone completely unrelated, which in that case, I will owe Tyler a very public apology. Not that I'm saying he's the one who did it, but I'm just saying where there's smoke, there's fire, and he had motive, means opportunity, and it's shady, and I don't like any of it. But we'll see what happens. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, just when I was about to wrap up this video, a little bit more information came out because just recently, Nikki's sisters, Chloe and Kay, came forward and did an interview where they shed a bit more light on the most recent events. Apparently, the night before the search warrant on Nikki and Tyler's house, Tyler spoke with Nikki's family, which was a total first because up until that point, Chloe said he had not had any kind of contact with her family, which, again, to me, is just a huge red flag all by itself. I mean, your spouse is missing, and whether or not you were going through a tumultuous moment and there were allegations, she's missing, and her family wants answers. So you're going no contact for almost a year, right until up before the search warrant? Something feels weird. Now, during this conversation, Tyler apparently stuck with his story that he had absolutely nothing to do with Nikki's disappearance and that he knew nothing about it. Chloe said at times he was, yes, emotional, but at others he seemed less so. Chloe even explained that at one point in the conversation, Nikki's other sister, Kay, got a little bit confrontational with Tyler. And instead of him being understanding or empathetic of the situation and understanding that tempers and emotions are going to be high in this, scenario, he kind of just smirked at her. And those are her exact words, which I can't even imagine doing that to a literal stranger on the street who's experiencing something like that, let alone my wife's sister who just wants answers. It's insane to me and pretty callous, if I'm being honest. Now, it's important to note that Kay clarified it wasn't like she was just cussing him out, kind of saying like, screw you, or being unreasonable in any sort of way, shape, or form with him. She simply was just asking him very direct, very specific questions that she wanted answered. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously, if he houses the answers and they have the questions, like, you're going to ask the questions. Definitely nothing that would seemed worthy of like a smirk. And it was like the whole thing was just one big joke. Besides that, though, there are two things that I want to mention about this interview that Chloe and Kay did. Because number one, even though Tyler's story to Nikki's family apparently stayed the same, they did claim that they noticed a couple of inconsistencies. Now, what these inconsistencies were, we don't know, but I think that still is a pretty huge detail nonetheless. I would imagine they would have shared them with law enforcement as well. They probably don't want to air them out to the public to tip Tyler off as to what the inconsistencies were, but I would imagine you contact the police or the FBI and everybody who's investigating and say, hey, we clocked these inconsistencies while we talked to him. Can you dig a little deeper? We're not going to say it publicly, though, because we don't want him to be onto what those inconsistencies are. So hopefully he's shitting his pants right now. Now, the second thing is that they clarified that Tyler, big surprise, has not joined a single one of the searches for Nikki. Not a single one. People, strangers, not only family and friends, strangers have been searching for your missing wife for the last year. You haven't gone to one search? You haven't gone to a single search? Do I need to say anything else? Like, that on its own, maybe not so weird because he's in the public eye. He knows his behavior is going to be scrutinized. He knows people are going to be looking for any sort of, weird facial expression or weird physical expression. I get that. But you couple that with the court date, you couple that with the fighting, the allegations, the weird inconsistencies, the girl now who has moved into your house allegedly, what's her relationship with you? All of these things, what's the expression? Where there's smoke, there's fire? I don't know. I get it, guys. Usually I try to be way more unbiased. This is kind of how I started on my channel, like really nailing in. And then I was like, oh, okay, Annie, you got to, pull it back a little bit. And I'm kind of going off the rails here a little bit. We're getting back to our roots, but something ain't right here. Something is not right here. Now, there was also some really clickbaity stuff about the idea of Nikki's body potentially being moved. Basically saying that since the search happened at the house, there's a possibility that her body was moved from one place to another. However, I want to be clear, there's no official police statements that indicate that that's even a working theory. It's just conversation. And I really believe that between the most recent search warrant and the change in her case from a missing person investigation to a homicide now, it truly could indicate that we are much closer to finally getting some answers and that her family is closer to getting answers. And hopefully these answers come from an arrest being made as well. So if you're interested in knowing more information about this case, I highly suggest going to the website that was created by Nikki's sisters, Chloe and Kay. It is www.whereisnikki.com. There's a dash between each of the words because this case could still be missing the one key piece of evidence that is needed to solve it. Potentially even by somebody who's watching this video. A slip up, a sighting, the person driving the red car, something. So share this video too, because the more people that see it, the more likely there is some sort of tip and that somebody heard something or saw something or knows something. So if you or anyone else you know has any information, big or small, please contact the Shasta County Major Crimes Unit by emailing them at mcu@shastacounty.gov or by calling in at 530-245-6100. And if you'd rather call in anonymously, that's fine too. That is 530-245-6135. Please share this video. Please get the word out. The more people who see it, the more likely a tip and an answer may be brought in. And let's just hope that Nikki's family gets justice very, very soon, that Nikki gets justice soon, and that we figure out what the heck happened to her. Although I'm sure if you are on the same wavelength as me, we probably know what happened and we probably know who might have been involved. I know this video, I'm probably being really reckless right now, guys, but I feel like we're best friends. I talk to you guys honestly about all this stuff. That's where my head is at. And I could be wrong. So please, as always, do your own research, form your own opinions, but something just is not landing for me over there. Something feels shady. I will keep you updated as soon as we know more. So subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already so that you do not miss those updates. All right, guys, until the next one, stay safe. Bye.